Hey kids, today's show is brought to you by the letter 4 and the number potato! I'm a stupid private.
Hiya, anime fan. It's been a minute, but here's my Sailor Moon Black Moon arc retrospective. Just like last time, this is going to be a two-parter. Fortunately, the writers had the decency to split the show into two separate arcs that basically have all to do with each other. In fact, the first arc should have been called the Doom Tree arc.
Maybe they didn't want to name the whole arc after something that sounds like you could take it out with a weed whacker.
So the setup is simple enough. After Serena went all Sailor Scout Super Saiyan and blasted Queen Beryl back to the Stone Age, she and the rest of the team, including Darien McMamoru, have contracted a case of that anime hero amnesia. That won't last long though, because space has a whole lot of holes in it. The bad guys du jour are Poison Ivy's long-lost twin cousins named Anne and Alan.
Yes, the terrifying scourge of galaxies, Anne and Alan.
They need to steal energy to feed their evil space tree, which in turn supplies them with life-sustaining energy. To help them out, the dismal duo come armed with a load of Cloudreed's less, good creations called Cardians, which are in no way different from any other Yoma that have been on this show. Now let's start by looking at the new characters this season, the main ones being our antagonists, Anne and Alan. They're just adorable. Now I use the Greedo measuring system when gauging evil, a Greedo being just enough of a jerk to count as evil. Both Anne and Alan rate about 5 Greedos each. Combined, that puts them on par with Biff. Their thing is that they've come to Earth to steal energy to keep themselves alive. The main source of this energy is, of course, human beings.
Make your own damn Matrix joke.
They definitely can't destroy humanity, and they seem to be able to suck the life out of people without doing any permanent damage. Basically, that makes them the space equivalent of irritating neighbors. Anne and Alan are boyfriend and girlfriend, but to insinuate themselves into human society, they choose to enroll at Serena's high school. Yeah, you know what? I really don't buy that these girls are in middle school. Anyway, Anne and Alan are disguised as brother and sister. I sense Jason the editor's hand in here somewhere. Far from being xenophobic, these two really dig human society and want to see everything that suburban life has to offer. Food, entertainment, dating. I guess if I crossed the icy void of space with just one girl to talk to, I'd be willing to see other people too. Once on Earth, Anne sets her sights on Darien, while Alan starts courting Miss Meatballhead. Personality-wise, these two are like fire and ice. Alan is cold and does most of the strategic planning as well as gathering energy for the Doom Tree. Anne, on the other hand, is hot-headed, prone to outbursts, and is more aggressive than her male partner. Both are equally prone to score settling and are willing and able to use their dark powers in romantic disputes. Speaking of powers, Anne and Alan aren't functionally different from any other Dark Warrior on Sailor Moon, but they tend to attack with these transparent energy blasts. Plus, their ability to float makes me think they have some power over gravity. They also have kind of a neat look, like evil elves or fairies. The other new character of note is a Middle Eastern-themed replacement for Tuxedo Mask, named the Moonlight Knight. Florence of Arabia here is just like Tuxedo Mask in every way, except instead of red roses, he throws white roses.
Well, that's so much less stupid now, isn't it?
He's a true man of mystery and a bit more flirty than Tuxedo Mask. He's also the center of an interesting mystery. It's established fairly early on that Darien is not the Moonlight Knight. But I'd be lying if I said the resolution to that particular plot cul-de-sac isn't kinda disappointing. The last character I'm gonna run down is Mina.
Oh good, you finally learned her name.
For a number of reasons during the previous arc, Sailor Venus is, let's say, underdeveloped. But in the Black Moon arc, Mina's true colors come shining through. She's the fun, upbeat, bubbly one.
Well, I guess that's better than the boring, pointless one.
Way better. Venus still takes on new challenges with an upbeat, positive attitude. That's par for the course, but what stops her from coming off like a bleach blonde fembot that runs on sugar and unicorn farts? Is we see she's not always upbeat and happy. She gets mad, she gets frustrated, she gets jealous of Serena. But then, unlike some people, she gets over it. Oh, and in one episode she becomes a total klutz and an awful cook, and as far as I know these character traits don't ever show up again. Funny episode though. Now let's go over the major events in this portion of the Black Moon arc. At the start, the Scouts and Darien have post-victory amnesia, but that doesn't last long because non-threatening as Anne and Alan are, there's still too much for two little kitty cats to handle on their own. So Luna uses her Vulcan mind meld to deneuralize Sailor Moon and then the rest of the inner Senshi. But Luna's kitty mind trick can't do jack squat for Darien, so remember all that character and relationship development that happened during the Dark Kingdom arc?
up in smoke.
But that's just the beginning of old Meatball Head's problems. She can strap up her leg and put her tiara back on, but that doesn't make her what she was. Things start going wrong when Serena realizes she misplaced the Moon Crescent wand, and then her odd job tiara move fails. But it's okay, Mom comes to the rescue yet again, giving Sailor Moon new powers, a new weapon, and a new transformation sequence that is surprisingly even more long and tedious than the last one. Serena's new weapon is the Moon Scepter. It's basically your typical coup de grace finishing move that she always uses. But hey, an upgrade's an upgrade. In fact, upgrades for everybody. Each girl gets a better version of her old primary attack. Mercury makes out the best, as her bubbles can now freeze her enemies.
Okay, when they're frozen, can she perform a fatality?
Sergeant, this is Sailor Moon, not Mortal Kombat.
Well, why the not?
So by the time the whole gang gets their supercharge on, Ann and Alan are about out of ideas on how to fertilize the Doom Tree. Apparently, no matter what they do, it keeps getting worse. Until, after a surprise visit by Darian and Serena to their secret lair/apartment...
I see two very foolish energy vampires need to reread the Evil Overlord checklist.
The tree just freaks out and takes over the whole apartment building. Now, rather than drop by their local S-Mart to pick up some industrial-grade weed whackers, the scouts just charge right in.
They got a pyro, they'll be fine.
Mars fire! Ignite! Come on, guys, move!
Not what I had in mind, but okay.
Meanwhile, Ann and Alan are arguing about which one of their guests they're going to be feeding to Audrey too. But the tree's hungry, so it decides to eat both of them. Ann and Alan then prove yet again why they're not threatening villains, even by Sailor Moon standards, by rescuing their own hostages. Then the party gets really exciting when the girls and Moonlight Knight show up. But they're not just fighting a couple of deranged pixies, they're battling a building-sized Whomping Willow that Ann and Alan have absolutely no control over. The Doom Tree is actually about to turn them both into mulch when Sailor Moon tries the surprising tactic of asking the tree to stop.
It's really more like begging.
And more surprisingly, it actually works. Apparently, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, the Doom Tree created Ann and Alan's species, but they became evil and nearly wiped themselves out because of some evil force from space. Probably the Negaverse, or the Dark Side, or the Reapers, or Cthulhu. But with Sailor Moon's plot-convenient healing powers, the evil energies that polluted the Doom Tree are purged, and Ann and Alan head back to space to start over again without so much as an apology. Now Darian, who spent the last 11 episodes with amnesia, finally regains his memory when he and the Moonlight Knight, who is actually the spirit of Prince Darien, reunite.
Was a nice mystery we had there, once.
So finally, at long last, Serena and Darian are back together, and they'll never be split up again. But seriously, it's a nice ending. I like this part of the Black Moon arc. The stakes are a lot lower than in the Dark Kingdom arc, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. This is a nice little relative calm between two storms. Ann and Alan, dopey as they are an interesting change of pace from die-hard holes like Queen Beryl. The action is more or less unchanged from the last season. Monster shows up, the girls fight it, Hunky Hero gives encouragement, scouts win. Wash, rinse, repeat. The biggest change is in Serena and Darian's relationship.
Unrequited love is so deliciously tragic.
But considering the relationship is one of the major subplots of the show, the whole Darian has amnesia thing isn't a terrible way to tie the two seasons together. As for the other girls, there's not really a lot of development there, except Mina, of course. Let's end with some of my random musings that don't really fit anywhere else in the video. I know I already pointed it out, but Sailor Moon's transformation sequence is insanely long. It clocks in at around 43 seconds. For comparison, watch Mercury. That was like 10 seconds. Jupiter, Mars, and Venus have longer transformation sequences, but none of them go over 18 seconds. I know the show's called Sailor Moon, but Serena, don't be such a diva. Next, a guy like Superman has a lot of different powers. He flies, he shoots laser beams out of his eyes. Some he gets more use out of than others, but I feel like I have a good idea of all the stuff he can do. But apparently one of the Inner Senshi has a secret set of superpowers she never uses. It's Sailor Jupiter, who apparently has plant powers. How am I supposed to know that? Maybe it's in the manga somewhere and it has some connection to Japanese mythology, but Jupiter throws around thunder and lightning like Thor, and in civilian form, Lita doesn't garden or flower arrange or anything plant related. That's kind of like finding out that the Flash can walk through walls.
You know, Private, that's exactly what he can do.
You're kidding.
Nope. Flash matter phases.
Well, clearly I need to go back to the old comic pile. The last thing, and this is more of a pet peeve than anything, whenever Serena goes into her Moon Princess mode, she stops using contractions. I always find that irritating. There are better ways to make your character sound formal than dropping its, were, and whats. Come on back next time for part 2 of my Sailor Moon The Black Moon Arc retrospective. Thanks for watching, I'm the Stupid Private.